So we have, got it. So we have Kendra with our marketing company, Idea. Did I say that right, Kendra?
No, Idea.
I always have a problem pronouncing that. And then, of course, we have Katia from the Stylista Group, and myself, of course, Nicole Williams Collective. And I hope you are all ready to level up for the new year and learn how to manifest your dreams into reality. I am a big fan of vision boards myself. And as a strategist, of course, I'm very big on laying out my goals and making sure that I can see my visions in front of me and then putting them not just in words, but also visualize them so I can actually chase them. They say if you trying to chase something, but you don't have that target, then, how do you expect to hit it? And so, of course, one of the things that I like to do is choose a word for the year. Last year I had my word for the year was resilience. This year, my word for the year is going to be presence. And for me, that just simply means the ability to think and act calmly and wisely in difficult situations. I usually look to my religious leader in terms of, my word for the year when it comes to that. And so, of course, that's my word for the year. And with that said, we're going to hear from an awesome speaker today, Kalilah Wright from Mess in a Bottle. And she's going to talk a bit about turning her mess into a message. And with that said, I kind of want you guys to think about a word for the year that you're going to be using as your theme going forward. And as you listen to Khalila, I want you to, and as you work on your vision board, I want you to kind of take those words and use that as a theme going forward. And just before we go a little further and introduce who Mosaic Mommies are, anyone have words for the year that you've already thought about that you want to go ahead and share in the chat? Anyone I've already set their word for the year or a phrase for the year? No one?
Kalila said consistency.
Consistency. Okay.
Consistency. Dominate.
Okay. Dominate. Awesome. That's awesome. Elevate. Prosperity. Great. Awesome. All right. And of course, everyone setting your words, you already know what that means for you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, great. All right. So that's good. So for the rest of you, as you listen and as you go forward, I want you to think about, setting a word or a phrase for the year that is going to help to guide you and lead you through making sure that you're staying on top of the goals that you are laying out tonight. And as far as our agenda for tonight, we are going to hear from our keynote speaker, Kalilah Wright, who is going to be interviewed by Katia. And of course, after that, we're going to go into how to use your vision board workbook. You should have there's some links in the chat. Be sure to download all the resources that we are dropping in the chat for you. It's going to help you to kind of lay out your goals and help to give you, keep you consistent throughout the year and refer to them throughout the year as you go by. We spent a lot of time. Kendra spent a lot of time working on those for you guys. So make sure that you download in those. We're going to also go into a live demo on how to create a vision board. And we're going to have some trivia time. And of course, from the trivia, we got some prizes. And we're going to be giving away 5 of Kalilah's journal, Turning My Mess into a Message. And it will take you through journal prompts for the whole year that you'll be able to win one of those. And of course, we'll go into wrapping up and hearing from anyone who wants to share their vision board and share what their goals are for the year. Okay, so just a little bit about Mosaic Mommies and who we are. Mosaic Mommies is an influencer marketing agency. For a while, we talked, Kendra Petit and I, we are in marketing in different arenas of marketing. Brandon, and we've been talking for a while that we wanted to do something that spoke to where we are, something that spoke to the relevance of the time. Of course, we are getting products, we are seeing advertising, we're seeing the different things that didn't speak to, that weren't on the mark. We're coming out of brands and they weren't on the mark. They were missing the mark, basically. And we wanted to do something to basically respond to that. And Mosaic Mommies was birthed after talking about it for a while. What we do is we are here to help provide fresh, new approach to customer engagement through multicultural moms and micro-influencers who basically can demo new products and services, deliver new, unique, relatable stories, and of course, share your personal brand experiences. What we do is we help moms of color grow their online influence. And I know we do got some men here, and we got men who are looking to, you're also welcome. So even though we're focused on women, don't think that you're not welcome. So you are welcome. And basically, if you are looking to make money online, whether through blogging, through creating content in different ways or forms, you are welcome. And you definitely want to go ahead and join. I'm sure that someone has dropped the link inside the chat. So you'll want to go ahead and sign up so that when we have opportunities, you'll be one of the first to know, and you'll be able to be in that in the list of people who will be able to get access to those. Cover that. Okay. And now I turn it over to Patia.
All right, so the moment we've been waiting for, and Kalila, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Kalila and I are Facebook friends, and this is the power of social media, right? So this is the first time I'm actually seeing her on a one-to-one level, but we've chatted a few times. I'm a part of a mom's group that she has on Facebook. It's about how many? A couple thousand moms strong in that group?
It is.
A lot. It's amazing. It's over 3,000. I don't know. It's a couple.
Yeah, it is.
That she built. And the power of social media is that you can make connections like this. And so I joined the group. A friend of mine added me to the group. And the thing is that I want you guys to think about how relationships still matter, like one-to-one relationships. Because to be honest, I had been seeing ads for Mess in a Bottle for quite some time. And I'm like, oh, cool t-shirts. Oh, this is an interesting name. Why would somebody call their company Mess in a Bottle? But it wasn't until I actually joined the group and I got to interact with Kalila that I actually bought something. Because I got to know her. I learned about her story. She's an amazing woman. You guys will hear her share. And once you form those connections with people, even if they're online connections, this is the power of social media, then you're actually able to convert connections into Raven fans and customers for your business and people who want to meet you and want to spend money with you as well as to talk about your brand. So this is why we're here today. I actually purchased one of her journals. I bought it, and as I was going through it, I said to myself, oh my God, this is perfect for this event that we're planning. And all I did was send her a Facebook message. And I said, look, I know you're very busy, but I would love it if you would show up for us. And in spite of the fact that she's a busy woman, she said yes. So here we are. All right, so who is Kalilah? Kalilah Wright was born in Jamaica, Caribbean girls in the house, and migrated to the United States at the tender age of 4 and was raised in Brooklyn. For all the Brooklyn people in the house, I know you're smiling. She is the founder and CEO of the expressive brand Mess in a Bottle. And as an accomplished designer and trained architect, she used her master's degree from Morgan State University and her Bachelor of Arts from Penn State University to establish the brand in January 2016 in Baltimore, Maryland. And for those of you who are going to stick around until the end, please pay attention because a lot of the trivia questions are based on Kalila. If you guys attended the last event, you will remember that we had some trivia questions that we thought everybody should know the answer to, and nobody did. So this time we thought we'd make it a little easier. All you have to do is listen. All right, so 2016, this is when Mess in a Bottle was established. Hint, hint, that's one of the questions. All right, so Mess in a Bottle allows you to put messages on t-shirts, and these t-shirts are packaged in reusable bottles. The Mess in a Bottle brand was established to evoke change and question Kalila's audience and allow individuals wearing their messages to be vocal without saying anything at all. Each item is designed and printed at her Baltimore in-house studio space. And I'm guessing that's where she is right now. Kalila has participated in multiple pitch competitions and won the Wells Fargo Business Pitch Competition at Blogalicious in 2016. And in 2018, the I Fund Women Pitch Competition in conjunction with the Baltimore Ravens. Mess in a Bottle has collaborated with numerous brands and created limited edition capsule collections with some brands you may have heard of, like Warner Brothers Studios for their movie The Kitchen, as well as Rock Nation for artist Rhapsody. Celebrities such as Serena Williams, Lovey Ajayi, Lena Waithe, Yvonne Orji, and fashion gurus Claire Sumners and Tyrone are all proud supporters of Mess in a Bottle. So let's give a warm welcome to Kalila. Yay!
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me.
And this is the website, messinabottle.com. And everybody that attended this evening's event, I will be sending a follow-up email first thing tomorrow morning, can enjoy 10% off their first purchase of anything on Mess in the Bottle with a special discount code that I can't remember right now, but it will be in the email, so don't worry about it. Okay, so let's dive into the questions. So Kalila, you went from designing buildings, right? You were trained architect to designing t-shirts. Can you share with us how that came about? Did you always want to design t-shirts, or is this something that you just started doing out of curiosity, interest? What was the journey like?
So I started out really venturing into, architecture was my thing and that was my profession. And I just really felt like my creativity was still being stifled at, my 9 to 5. It felt like I still couldn't create like what I wanted to do. And I kind of like stumbled onto t-shirts. It was just like, I started doing baby furniture and because I was having a son and I decided to do baby furniture. And once I started the baby furniture company, it then ventured into, I felt like it was very time consuming, expensive, and, the profit margins and the time that it would take to make the products. So I then transitioned and started doing apparel. And once I started doing apparel, I started to realize, okay, it's a faster turnover. It's feeling, there's a lot more excitement. And then that's when the birth of like Mess in a Bottle kind of happened, where it was like I was putting messages on the t-shirts and people were really gravitating towards those messages. And, it really felt like I was able to be expressive, like, say what I wanted to say without saying anything at all. It allowed me to have a voice and give a voice to the voiceless. Like I realized not everyone would be, is not as boisterous as I am. So, this was a really great way of being able to have a message and having other people. So that's where, Mess in a Bottle came from.
Absolutely. And for anybody that is not muted, please kindly mute yourself so that the recording can be clear. Okay, so I love the name of the company, Mess in a Bottle, which is pretty much the short for Message in a Bottle. How long did it get you to settle on that name? Were there other names that you considered before settling on Mess in a Bottle?
So Mess in a Bottle, it was really funny because I really knew that what I was creating was a message in a bottle. And I ended up, really, of course, message in a bottle is a very popular term. And so at the time I was like a mom, single mom, going through a divorce, trying to figure out things. And I was like, I'm a mess. This is a mess. This is not a message, and I needed to figure out how to turn my mess into a message. And at that point, it wasn't a message. It was a whole mess. So that's where Mess in a Bottle came from. And it really, it made sense. It stuck, it was just really great because, again, it related to a lot of things. And it was during a time of like Freddie Gray in Baltimore, riots, there was things going on. And I was like, the world is a mess. So, and I think I was able to stay true to the brand that way.
Absolutely. Love the name. Okay. So when you were establishing the company, did you at all at any time use the vision board process to help you to kind of figure out or to, organize what you were about to do? Do you use At all. Yes.
Yeah. So funny enough, last year, was one of the first times that I actually really created a vision board. So I did one, I've done one in the past with like friends. I have a picture of my son and he was probably only about 2 or 3. And it was a crazy snowstorm in Maryland and we got snowed in. And I remember I was at my cousin's house and I was like, well, it's the new year. I might as well try this thing and do a vision board. And so I remember I created one, but I probably I have no idea like where it was. It just sounded like the cool thing that everyone else was doing. So I was like, I think I need a vision board. And I created one. And I was like, oh, okay. But then last year, I was more intentional. I did it on my own. I decided, to get some magazines. And magazines, that's when I realized how expensive. I was like, I can't be buying this $10 magazine to cut up. I was like, this is expensive. I tried it. But, bought magazines, cut them up, and I made my vision board. And at that point, I was trying to just really manifest things that I wanted within my career, within my life, within my future, just really setting some goals and just really trying to figure out what was the next steps. And I think the great part, so what I did with my vision board, and I'm not a vision board guru, so I could do t-shirts. That's all I know about. But what I did do was I took my vision board and I put it like behind my bedroom door. So like at night, I was able to, look at it. When I worked out, I would, and it was just more, I think it was interesting for me because again, my mindset wasn't heavy on my vision board, but it was really cool because again, it made me go back to sort of look at it. I was able to kind of like glimpse it, like working out and be like, oh yeah, you did say you wanted to do that, and that before 40, right? And, and stuff like that. So I feel like it was watching me almost, it was just one of those things where it's like, it's holding me accountable. It's like, like my vision board was saying, we middle of the year and you ain't get there yet, your weight, you said you wanted to do what and run what? So I'm a runner, I run marathons, I do other things. And, I say that lightly, I finish marathons and however many hours it might take me. And so like having a runner on my vision board is, cool for me. And just, again, setting some goals and allowing it to hold me accountable. But I think what I've really, even this year, like I don't want to put too much pressure on myself to, have this vision. And, if your vision doesn't align with what's going on, you're like totally crushed. And, I think it's taken me some time to create sort of a vision or any type of goals this year, because I think I'm easing into it, like between the year that we've had and, just business. And I think as an entrepreneur, a person who, is glorified in a sense of being a successful entrepreneur, I think that you can also put like some unrealistic expectations and pressure on yourself. And, I didn't want to do that to myself. I'm like, you've done amazing already, because right now we're in a space where it's like, well, you got to live your best year ever. You got to live your best life ever. And, and you're sad if you're not, or your vision board doesn't align with, and I'm in a space now where I'm like, I want to give myself grace, be kind to myself and just allow, I'm putting pieces on there as it's going right now. I don't know if what's happening with the world and what, so I'm allowing my vision to sort of really manifest itself and dictate and, things like that.
Right. Somebody is not on mute. Please put yourself on mute. Okay. That is great advice. I think that a lot of us are deciding after the year that we had last year that we're going to do exactly that. Like there are definitely things that need to be accomplished, but in the meantime, we need to give ourselves grace and, kind of be a little bit more realistic and realize that we're all heavily stressed. For me, this has been the most underwhelming new year ever. Like I usually at the beginning of the year, I'm like, new year, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But this year I'm not feeling that. And accepting that feeling and giving yourself grace, like you said, and it's perfectly okay because we've been through a lot. And
right, but it's also
delayed reaction, right?
Yeah, but I also realized like yesterday and like through therapy and stuff too, I'm like, how much of that is fair? how much of that is that I'm afraid of the failure that people talk about, or the not doing as well as people are talking about? So how much of it am I allowing myself to like be afraid, like, okay, because you don't want to fail, or because you don't want to do a number less than what you did last year, then like you kind of are in a corner. And so I'm just like, so I think that it's a little bit of both. It's almost like, plan to live your best life, but be okay with if it doesn't like pan out the way that you wanted to. And I think the goal, for me is to maintain happiness and to just, be okay with however any of this, we shaking one of the balls right now and turning it to see which way we're going. And so I think for me, I'm just trying to have that balance, but I think the fear is also real, where I think I was kind of telling myself, oh, it's okay. Don't feel pressured. But it's like, you could turn up the notch just a little bit. You are right. Like, don't let, because if you don't do as well as, or, super exceed, you're okay. And I think that was also a lesson that I needed to like sort of see and feel for myself as well.
Perfect. So given the times that we're in, a lot of people are transitioning, they're changing, they're walking away from careers. I read an article last week where people are just leaving their jobs. Like, they just literally don't want to be bothered. And sometimes these are jobs that pay well, even. They just don't want to be bothered. You did that yourself, right? So the fear, talking about fear, sometimes when people have been doing that one thing for 10, sometimes 20 years, and they want to make that shift to something else, the fear or the concern is usually that because you have been so focused in doing these set of things, that you may not have the skills to then transition to something else, right? But almost always, if you take a closer look, there are always transferable skills that you can take with you, right? So what advice do you have, because you did this yourself, for people who may be feeling stuck or unsure, or not making the moves that they really want to make because they feel like, oh my God, if I change, I'm going to have to start from scratch, which rarely is the case. What is the process, or what advice do you have for somebody like that, to kind of force them to sit down and like say, look, I have these set of skills. Where else can I use this? Or how can I use these skills in a way that will help me to make that transition? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, what I'm learning about life is like, there's just beauty in the unknown. You have no idea what's on the other side of the door. I mean, I've had so many naysayers when I was starting my business, not naysayers of people who were just saying, oh, it's not a good idea. Just people who were like, oh, are you sure this is what you want to do? You want to leave your job as an architect? You have stability there. We're taught to sort of stay in this place. So, I totally understand where their fear is then pushed over and, and given myself like this type of advice. But I just think that there's beauty in the unknown. I think what the pandemic is doing to everyone right now, it is making us evaluate like where we are in life, if what the work we're doing, if it's purpose driven, if it's really fulfilling us, if it's giving us like a sense of accomplishment. I mean, even for myself, I love my company. I think it's doing great, but I'm also telling myself, like, if I want to pivot, walk away, do whatever, like I have to be okay with that as well. Like, even as an entrepreneur, like I'm not letting this drive, like the business doesn't drive me, I drive the business. And so, that is also, again, you have to have that confidence and have that understanding. And, I think one of the other things, I'm from Brooklyn, I was born in Jamaica, I'm gonna survive, whether I'm selling mangoes on the corner or if I'm gonna be, selling waters like I'm making a rum punch and giving it to you, something gotta give, okay? So I think that if you have that survival mentality, and if like you'll figure things out. And when I left, my full-time, job at that time, that was my mentality, that I will survive. And that also what I've learned is that even if you're doing something new, you're doing things from experience, you're not starting from scratch. Like there's things that you will be implementing, life things that you're like, oh, well, I know what to do here. So, and I think that's the beauty of it. And, I think that right now there should, you shouldn't have fear of transition, pivoting, changing, starting something new, things that are just going to be fulfilling to you. And I think that also, but one thing I will couple that with saying I have one of my favorite books. It's called The 12-Week Year. And I always talk about this book and shout it out. But The 12-Week Year is a really great book. And one of the things it says is like, sort of look at your life vision. And your life vision should almost align with like all of these other things that you plan to do in life. And so I think sometimes we get lost because we're not looking at, well, what is my life vision? So is my life vision, like if I'm a doctor or whatever, or, you know, a nurse, and if it's not truly bringing me to what my life vision is going to be, it's like, do I stay in this? Does it make sense? Do you evaluate? Or, you know, and I think also allowing ourselves the opportunity to sort of pause, because I think not everything is a super shift. And I think people also, the pandemic is forcing people to think like, no, I got to get up, I got to go. And it's like, no, you might need to pause and think and like evaluate and really like not move with fear, nothing like that, but just to really think, is this just a moment? Right. Am I just having a moment and telling myself like, this is not what I want to do? Or do you really want to make the shift? So I think, you know, it's a really difficult time because right now there's a lot of emotions. Everybody's on a hype. Everybody's on a, you know, so, and you're watching your peers, you know, certain people are doing certain things. Certain people are looking like they're living their best lives. So, you know, I check in with myself often and just be like, am I good? You know, I'm a big advocate of therapy as well. I'm always talking out, you know, with my therapist and others that I trust, like, you know, just to make sure, like, am I rushing something? And I hope I'm not talking too much, but like one other thing that I will say too is, thank you. One other thing I will say is that also I'm realizing too that you know, like I'm probably where I'm supposed to be. You know, like sometimes we want to rush the process so much and you want to like be in another space, and realistically, like that's just not where you're supposed to be yet. And a lot of the times, because we're either measuring ourselves against other people and things like that, you start to feel like, no, I got to rush. And it's like, no, because you might rush and get yourself in a rut because that's not where you're prepared to be yet, even mentally, physically, emotionally. So I'm just learning a lot of those things. So I think vision boards are really helpful for me to kind of organize my thoughts and things that you think like maybe even year to year, again, making them align with my life vision, but even saying to myself, things that I think I want, like they shift, they change, they don't look the same, they don't, you know, feel the same. So yeah, that's kind of how vision boards have been sort of helping me to level set.
That is great. So like I said, I bought the journal, and as I was going through it, it's really an amazing journal. I was like, oh my God, I have to ask her. The worst. And this is another thing, you guys, like Kalila could have said no, and that would have been fine. So don't be afraid to ask, be brave, go out there, connect with people, because you just never know. So this is your first journal product. Is it your first journal that you released?
It is. We've had it now for, I want to say maybe 3 years. This is our, I think, third revision of it. Okay. And so, you know, it just, so I'll tell you how it came into life. Like I went one day and I saw like somewhat of a writing prompt. It was nothing like this, but it had writing prompts, and you know, and I just was like, I got a lot of messages, and there was a lot of things that I just really felt like for myself, I wanted to ask myself and like to really write in here and be able to then reread it back to myself. I think if anyone journals, is the beauty of it is when you look back and you're like, whoo, I was in some pain. That was a mess. And I made it into a message, you know, so I think that's the great part about it.
Absolutely. So I've been using it, and to prove it to you, you recognize this writing prompt. I liked this because it made me think about, you know, my personal journey and experiences. And so the one I'm referring to is, sometimes a perceived loss isn't really a loss. Think of a door that shut this year or last year, this year is just starting, that made room for something better, greater, and a more aligned opening. I loved that. Like I was like trying to write really small because I had like, it's you think back, right? I don't think that we realize when we're going through things, how much we were able to overcome in the past. and how much sometimes disappointments can be blessings, right? And so you're asking to think of one thing, and I had like 10. I'm like, oh my God, that time I was so disappointed. But guess what? It's a good thing that didn't work out for me because something else happened. Do you mind sharing, just one example in your life where that happened, where you were like really bummed and disappointed because something didn't work out, but it opened
Yeah. It made me think. I think from mine, the one that I wrote down. So a couple years ago, I was featured on national television with Mark Cuban. If those who don't know, he's the part owner of the Mavericks and Shark Tank and all this great stuff. So I was featured on a television show with him, and it wasn't Shark Tank. And recently, a couple months ago, Shark Tank called, and they were like, we would love to possibly have you on the show. And one of the questions while vetting was, have you ever met like any one of the sharks? And of course, my answer was yes. And so they said, unfortunately, I could not be on the show due to the fact that I've already met Mark Cuban. And I was so devastated because I was like, oh my gosh, Shark Tank. But I was devastated. But then I turned that into, girl, Shark Tank called you. Right. You ain't called Shark Tank, okay? They asked you if you wanted to be on the show. So I had to really like flip that around, where when I first like even thought of Shark Tank has been my show where I would love to be on, but I waited on lines, to audition and all that years ago. And so the fact that, 5 years later, Shark Tank is calling me, and, unfortunately I couldn't do it. But I also then said to myself, maybe I'll eventually be sitting in a chair as a shark, so I had to tell myself, like, transition the whole thinking, like, you're positioning yourself to be much bigger than a person just on the television show. You're way beyond that. And on top of it, just to go back to what we were saying before, if I went on the show, then I may not be where I am now. Right. I would have probably said, oh my God, that's a great opportunity. I got to sell parts of my company. I have to, and we are 100% Black woman owned by me right now, and so that is, again, I could have made something very premature by like going through a door that just wasn't for me, that so I think that was a door that closed that I was like, oh, but
that's
it's
amazing.
now.
I love that story. Okay, so those of us who are entrepreneurs, all three of the Mosaic Mommies have their separate marketing agencies, right? So this is a joint venture, but we also got our things that feed us every day. We're just starting Mosaic Mommies. So we usually rely on what's called the SMART framework when goal setting for your business. So revenue goals, how many new clients you're going to get, that sort of thing. I'm sure you do this as well. And for those of you who are not familiar with the SMART framework, it's setting goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time sensitive, right? So this is not pie in the sky. And sometimes I think when people think of vision boards, they think of that, these pie in the sky dreams. No, they have to be things that are realistically attainable. And you have to set time frames or else none of these things actually happen. So that framework can be used in personal lives as well. However, I think a lot of us struggle with being really specific, and I would like to focus primarily on money for this question. So there are different things, personal finances and business success, because I think that most people of color, this is what we struggle with because we have such a anxiety-based relationship with money. We don't like to talk about it. It's just a sensitive topic. And for obvious reasons, we know why. But if we are to grow and to catch up and succeed, we need to get rid of that, right? And I myself had to force myself to be comfortable about talking with money, but networking, that sort of thing. And people be like, how much money did your agency make last year? And I'd be like, what? Why are you asking me? But they have no problem talking about these things. And I noticed that in certain rooms, because people are so comfortable talking about money, they make more money, right? Because everything is out on the table. So I had to get over that really quickly. So needing to learn to talk about money, how have you overcome that? Because to have a successful business, you have to get over that. So you have to set goals. This year, I want to make 50% more of what I made last year. And these are the steps that I need to take to make that happen. I need to sell 10,000 more t-shirts at XYZ so that I can make this amount of revenue. What advice do you have for people who may be struggling with confronting and dealing with either whether it's personal finances in your personal life or actually setting goals and achieving goals so that they have businesses that are actually successful? Because I got to tell you, most of us that have businesses, they are barely inching along, right? We need to stop this, both from a personal finance level as well as business. So any advice for anybody who may be struggling in that specific aspect of their lives?
So what I would say, one of the goals I set for myself last year was to understand my money. And what that means is like, I'll be very transparent with this. When you make money and you have, or, your business, or, you're making millions, thousands of dollars. Like, I remember when I could tell you more now when my account was negative $10 than when it's positive, $200,000, because there can be sums of money that's coming out every month and you're not realizing and you're not understanding, and you don't see that there's this big chunk that keeps on going out every month, and you're like, because it's not as visible. But when an account is negative 20 and you see another overdraft fee and you like, but I didn't do $3.99 at McDonald's, what happened? Then what every transaction looks like. So that has been one of my goals, from like at the end of last year, towards the middle of last year, I said that I really want to understand my finances. So hiring, someone that is right in those areas, that's going through like certain things with a fine tooth comb, trying to figure out, like some of the, like your expenses and what's happening. And I think like my biggest thing, especially with money, was not thinking about how I can like increase my revenue, but to actually increase my profitability. And I think that makes more sense as well. Like, not just being so like, oh, I want to do, 20% higher, 50% higher. It's like, no, I might want to do the same number, but I actually want to recoup more in my pocket. Like, I want to figure out how can I make this more profitable? What makes sense to shift certain things within my business to make it more profitable. So, and also positioning yourself next to people with, people who know even more than you, and people who are, really like they are specialists in those areas, so it's not just about having a good CPA or having a good bookkeeper or having a good accountant, and I had to learn that, I had people on my team where someone may be a good CPA, but they didn't really understand like, some of the business needs, and like even just with certain tax things that needed, or, like there was just being savvy and navigating certain things where it's like, oh, like to do any type of like predictions, or, so we know like, all right, well, we need to stash this amount for taxes, and there's this coming up, and, the best thing to do is pay this early so that we'll be able to, but, like that stuff takes really, you have to have amazing people on your team and really, and able to strategize. And I think, like you said earlier too, is being around people that aren't afraid to sort of like talk about money. I think that was the other thing. A lot of the times and I noticed when you're doing bad, or, like you feel like your finances are not doing well, you kind of keep it on the hush. You're like, oh my God, my money, and that's when you really need to talk up, because then you could really, somebody could tell you like, listen, the best thing you need to do is open this kind of card, or, hey, if you pay this, like, like we even for me, credit wise, at first I'm maxing some stuff beyond 30% and, and all types of stuff. And now I keep my like utilizing under, 15, 20%, 18%. I'm like, when I'm creeping up to them 20, I'm like, oh no, pay it off. Right. I'm buying stuff and making sure it's paid off. I'm putting stuff for the business credit. Like, there's just a lot that I think that we all need to sort of like talk about, and, and also not realizing or feeling like everything is a scam, or someone's out here to, sort of scam you, or, but again, you have to really mess with credible people. And I think another thing with that is really realizing like, positioning yourself, like there's levels to this. I'll say that there's levels to this money thing. Like I always say, Oprah's money is not Bill Gates' money. So there's this, and and I would like an Oprah bag, but the Bill Gates bag is a different kind of bag, and there's levels to this. So I just think that when you think about the people that you are learning from or want in your corner, like, do note there's just levels to this. And I don't think that a lot of us might have, when I go to my mentor who is grossing like crazy buku, like I'm like, and where I'm like, okay, now yesterday's price is not today's price.
Right. Exactly. And it's all about growth and being open, even if you're afraid to learn so that you can do better, right? Okay, my final question, because I'm sure the audience has a lot of questions for you. So getting back to the power of vision boards to wrap this up, you've had collaborations with Claws, Target, Rock Nation, YouTube, and Warner Brothers. Were they just opportunities that came along, or do you have your list of brands, your dream brands that you want to collaborate with?
No, I think that honestly, all of these, I tell entrepreneurs all the time, I tell people, who have apparel brands, I would just really say you keep working hard and you will be hard for people to not see you. That's it. I haven't had we don't have I didn't have someone pitching and trying to connect with brands and saying, hey, we're messing a bottle. We didn't do that. I literally have been bootstrapping, vending at events, doing certain things. And, my partnership with Target, one of the things that they said is we see you, we saw you, we are the ones kind of coming to you. So all of these brand partnerships, partly was that. And I'll also say, having Black women in boardrooms in which they are familiar with my brand. So, I'm at a, predominantly white company where they're looking for a minority person to do something, and having, a strategic, person, Black woman in the room saying, oh, I know a good company, that has also definitely pushed us, really far along. So I'm definitely grateful for a lot of the partnerships and visibility that I've had. It's something that I could not have imagined, fathomed, to be a part of some of these large organizations. But, it just has taught me to keep working, keep my head down, and allow things to sort of, fall into your lap.
Yeah. And I just want to back that up with the focus on quality. So you have a quality product, right? Because if you did not have quality products, nobody in any boardrooms would be recommending you anywhere. Correct. And that is also an area that I think we specifically need to focus on, because there are many times, and I'm not, we have to, if we're going to do better, we have to be honest with ourselves. And many times we just aren't ready because we don't spend the time to do the work to understand what it takes to deliver quality products and services. So, you can be visible all you want, but if your product's not good, you're still not going to get anywhere, right? And so I think, I've purchased a bunch of stuff from you. Everybody from the baby to the husband is jealous of the journal. It's like the shower curtain, leave your mess at the door, right? And your stuff is great. Okay. Yeah.
But also note though, it's growth, because, I'll look back at, we're turning 6 this year, and I'll look back at year maybe 2 or 3. And I was like, ooh, I did that. Who made that? I ain't made that, and so that's that. So there's growth, there's, there's progression, and there is, vision boards to kind of help guide you and to say, all right, one of the things I want to elevate and work on this year is this, customer service was big for us, where we struggled for many years with that. And now we're excelling in customer service. So I definitely think that it's really, it just depends on what areas do you work on? How do you work on it first, and to get noticed, and then to, and to be honest with yourself as well, and making sure that, you have a great product.
Absolutely. Very well said. All right. So Kendra, could you keep me honest on the time? We're going to take some questions from the audience, but again, Kalila is very busy, so we don't want to take up too much of our time. All right. So if you have any questions for Kalila, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. I think that's the best place to manage this. And I will read them so that she can answer them, as opposed to everybody trying to talk all at once. So who wants to go first? I know you guys got to have questions. Okay, so Stephanie raised her hand. Actually, that's a good process. Raise your hand and then I can unmute you and you can ask the question directly. I like that better. Okay, so go ahead, Stephanie. You can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Pleasure to meet you, Kalila. I was just saying in the chat that I am forming a massive woman crush in the making as I'm getting to know you. I saw your YouTube promo video for the brand. And again, just seeing how open and transparent you are, even in this conversation, it aligns perfectly. And I'm curious about have you always been that way? Or was this a process in developing your business and the brand to just be open in who you are?
Since zero.
That's amazing.
They've always said, my father, but they're like, you always would talk. In Jamaican, they said I was a chatterbox. So if anybody knows what that means, like I was a chatty patty. And so yeah, I've always been this transparent and this open. Back in my AOL days, I used to write like these long away messages. I gotta find it. Like I used to write my whole life in these stories and on Facebook and, but I will say, over the years, I have, learned to, filter. Yeah. I think I've just been learning, I think with the growth, just with protection of myself and, and I think that, it's a hard space to be in because, you would love to like tell it all, share it all and, and all this other stuff. But I think that overall, I have learned that it does cause damage as well. I mean, I would say for the most part, like sharing has the good outweighs the bad 100%. But I definitely still, now that I'm older, I have a son, I have, I have a business, I have assets to protect. And so I'm very intentional about like what I share, how much I share, on the internet and, and also what I'm learning also, like, just even the energies, like how much that affects me, too, because sharing so much, people really do feel like they know you and like, and that's a lot of burden sometimes to carry too. So it becomes difficult, but, I enjoy it. It's me. And I think that's one of the reasons why too, that I thrive and my brand thrives is because, like I keep it all the way 100 with everybody, so it's just like, this is who I am. You're going to get what you're going to get. And that's it. And so,
Can I ask one quick follow-up question to that? Because I definitely agree with you about that sincerity factor, so when you were still working in the architectural world, and I'm guessing predominantly white world, can you explain how then you navigated that part of yourself that just, like you said, you're super expressive, open, transparent, honest. That world doesn't work like that. So what was that like to be in there for so long?
I would wear like bright pink lipstick and bright pink hair every day to every meeting and be like, you gonna take me as I am. And that's it. But for real, that was part of it. And then it was difficult because I didn't feel appreciated by architecture. So the transition and pivot for me, with creating my own business came really, kind of easy because it was just like, once I started creating messages and people were loving my messages and they were like, girl, I was like, y'all think this is cute too? And I was like, I was in the wrong space this whole time. Like, really? But architecture has played such a major role still in who I am, the type of designer, why I wear round glasses, like, I'm an architect, like, no matter if they did not receive me, I think that I'm a designer. And that's what I had to accept also, so maybe that rigor, that box that, it was trying to fit me in, it was just like, that wasn't who I was. So I think in that space, I just still, again, remain true to who I am, like even through college, going to a predominantly white university as well. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it could have changed me in a lot of different ways and pushed me, down certain paths. But, I remained who I am.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to let you go in a second, but there was a question in the chat that popped up right before you raised your hand. So Marcus is asking, Kalila, do you think that your time at an HBCU helped in any way with your journey?
Yeah, so I went to a HBCU for graduate school. I went to Morgan State University in Baltimore. I mean, it helped by keeping my behind in Baltimore. I'm still here, you know. So that was one. But I think also, you know, it just really I was able to see the disparities. I was, you know, because I went to Penn State and then Morgan State. Like there was a whole bunch of different states in between. Like, you know, they are not created equally. And so it was interesting. But I think, again, I created and developed, you know, some roots here. And it just, I think going to HBCU, I was able to see the camaraderie and, you know, it felt different. There was just, and I learned a lot about, again, myself and resources, knowing that, again, you know, there may not be a lot of resources and I got to figure some things out on my own. The libraries don't look the same, you know, so, but I think that it was definitely, I love that I had both, best of both worlds, to be honest. I learned a whole lot in both.
Perfect. Kendra, how are we doing with time for questioning? How many more questions?
We can maybe take one or two more, but
Okay.
I can. The demo doesn't have to take that long, so I think this is valuable.
Yeah, this is good. Okay, so Rochelle, you're next, so you can go unmute yourself, and then after Rochelle, LaShawn, you can go.
Hi, boy, if I am I loving every single word is an understatement. I think I speak for us all. I have a question. I think social media is like a blessing and not. My question is, how are you navigating some of the naysayers? You know, 1 minute you can get something on your feed that you're extraordinary, you're the best thing since, you know, Mother Teresa and the Statue of Liberty. And then 2 inches down, somebody can say, you know, the nerve of you and your product sucks and that. I think we live in it's just so vicious. So how have you been able to navigate that? Because I think some of us read that and it's like, holy camole, how do we deal with this meanness that's going on in the culture? And the last thing is, what's one of your favorite messages that you've put on a t-shirt? I'd love to see that, you know, hear about that.
Okay. So when it comes to social media, I think I'm in a space and it's not even social media. I'll go back to even customers. You know, I used to check like a lot of like the messages because I didn't have a customer service person, and I would read a lot of the messages and they were super hurtful. They were, you know, it was difficult. But I think that even with social media, like, you know, I guess grain of salt is like the word that comes to mind. It's more like some of the things I do take, and instead of like taking it personal, I do assess. Like if someone's like, your packaging is terrible, I didn't get my stuff on time, you know, the customer service, nobody answered my call. So at first I used to be keyboard like, don't talk to my customers that way, or don't talk to me that way, you know, and I'll yell back and I'm cursing back and I'm upset. And I'm like, what are you getting worked up about? Like, so I started assessing the situation. I'm like, all right, is there truth to what they're saying? Did it take a long time? Was there issues that you should have fixed? Do I need to start hiring a customer service person? Do I block it because it's too personal to me? You know, like, so I just started doing things like that. And so even with mean comments over the delete, block, protecting my peace, not me, not over here. Like you're not gonna be my messenger like that. So that's kind of my take. I'm like, you can, even on social media, allow who you want in your space. And that's it. Like, and I'm big on that. I'm like, you know, so if somebody's saying something hurtful, they just thinking that about themselves. You know, like we're back on a schoolyard where, you know, kids now have a keyboard. And so, you know, for me, I'm not too moved by that. Block, delete, later, and that's it. My favorite message, well, one of them is keep creating dope ass shit until somebody notices. That was like one of my favorite messages because again, I'll also say entrepreneur, a fancy word for a crazy person following their dream. Those are like, you know, two of my favorite ones.
Great. LaShawn, you're next.
Oh, I love it. This is such a refreshing conversation, Kalila. I'm so happy to, you know, join tonight. And I love that you know, those quotes that you agree with, because I think, you know, when you work in bureaucracy, you work in spaces where you're limited, as a creative person, you have to find that, you know, that outlet. And so I think, you know, in you know, you starting your business, I think that's just an aspect of your creativity kind of just coming out, because, you know, within organizations, you know, there's always limitations. And I think now as a CEO, you know, it's important for us, you know, and in my business as well, to allow your staff to be creative so that they don't feel stuck, you know? And so I think that's kind of where the happy place is. And so I really applaud you. And, you know, I just want to say, you know, thank you for sharing your you know, your lifestyle today. You know, it was really helpful. We all have a journey. And it's always good to see other entrepreneurs who are, you know, really stepping outside the box, right? And being who they've been called to be, right? I feel like there's always a calling, right? It's not that we just kind of make this stuff up. It's like we are driven to do things bigger than us.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take one more question before we move on. And somebody in the chat called Marquise, is that how you say your name? Wants to ask a question. So you can just go ahead and unmute yourself, Marquise. This will be the last question for the evening. Where are you? Or do you want to type your question? Did he disappear? Is he shy all of a sudden? One of the soul men. Go ahead. Okay, so you can just speak. You're unmuted. You can just ask Kalila the question directly.
Oh.
You're unmuted. Oh, he's connecting to audio. Okay, let's give him a few seconds. All right, go ahead. Oh boy. Okay, do you want to type the question and I'll ask Kalila on your behalf? What is the question?
Homework.
I am, but I need to.
Hey, honey, how are you?
Good.
All right, Marquise, what's going on? Can you type the question if you can't speak? Okay.
What was the name of the book? Oh, it's the 12-week year. Pass my book, Kaden.
Okay.
It's right there. Thank you. The 12-week year.
Great. All right. Thank you for sharing. All right. So this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing so honestly. I think a lot of times people have problems with being authentic. And unfortunately for them, it usually doesn't work out. But I think that everybody here can appreciate that you were yourself, you were real. And thank you so much for saying yes to me. And hopefully we'll have more discussions going forward. And Mosaic Mommies would love to work with you as we build in the future. So this is the beginning of wonderful things. Absolutely. Okay, so you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the evening. Or I know your son's probably looking like, where's dinner? That's what my daughter would be doing.
I'll stay on for a little bit. I'll be on mute.
Great. Okay, great.
Oh, I want dinner.
You want you gotta love
He had to ask the question because he was just fine.
I want it.
All right, so Kendra, I'm going to turn things over to you to move on with the vision board portion of the evening. Go ahead, Kendra.
All right. Thank you so much, Kalila. I was not taking notes, but I was absorbed and taking it all in. So yeah, thank you for your candor and sharing your story with us. It was definitely very inspiring. So we appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. So now we're just going to be talking about the vision board workbook. I'm going to do a little mini demo. So I will be honest, I've never created a vision board. It's been on my mental vision board to do every year. I always say that I'm going to do a vision board and then I never actually get around to it. So I selfishly, when we were trying to think of events to do this year, I thought this would be a great one to finally help me put this into motion. So we dropped a link into the chat if you want to download your free copy. It's a vision board workbook and kind of a guide just to get you into the right mindset. So I'm just going to quickly go through because there's a lot of resources in the guide. You can use all of them if you want, or you can just pick and choose the ones that make sense for you. So this is what the guide looks like. And I would encourage you, like sometimes I like to even just go to, you can go to Staples or Kinko's or something like that. And you can have things physically printed out. So this is like another guide. I blog on the side, and so I actually had this one printed out. So you can feel free to use that too. I think it'll cost like maybe 10 or 15 bucks to have this one printed out. If you want to do it in color, might be a little bit more. So always recommend that. So this basically breaks the process down into 4 steps. And I'm just going to try to change my view. Yeah, it breaks down the process into 4 steps. So the first thing you want to do before you start to create a vision board, I know I'm pretty organized, but sometimes I can be scatterbrained. It's like I use both sides of my brain. So I have my organized part that likes to know this is going to go here, and this is what I'm doing, step 1, 2, and 3. And then I have my other creative brain that's just like, I want to do everything. So step 1 is to really get clear on what your goals are and to really try to dig deep. So we put in a bunch of different tools, and I'm going to kind of walk you through each of them because I know all of us think a bit differently. So you might not have to use all the tools. But what I would suggest is you set a primary goal and you set a time frame. So traditionally, I think a vision board is kind of like for the whole year, but I know some people that are very great at like manifesting and good at, setting their intentions, and they go through 2 or 3 vision boards a year because they keep achieving their goals. So I'm not on that level yet, but you can set a time frame for yourself. Like I know I do better with a long-term vision and then like short-term vision or goals. So set a time frame for your vision board, set a primary goal, like the one thing that you really want to focus your energies around, and then your secondary goals. And there's checklists within this guide to kind of check off so you make sure that you've done each of the steps before you move on to the next one. Step 2 is actually gathering your vision board materials. And so for this, after I go through this guide, I have my like vision board materials here. Everything was sourced on Amazon and Etsy. So gather all of your materials. You want to be looking for different images. You can go online and go to Google and search lots of different images. Canva has a lot of great resources. I'm going to show a few of those. You want to look for like words and phrases. Again, all of us think differently. All of us are motivated differently. I know Nicole took us through that exercise of thinking of our word for the year. I put down that my word is prosperity. And then my secondary word, if I'm going to cheat and have 2, is focus. I have a lot of different goals in a lot of different areas. So for me, it's like picking that one that's the one that no matter what I want to focus on and get it done. And then you want to think about how you want to decorate your vision board. Like some people, if you're artistic, you might want to hand draw some things or paint and things like that. I like to be very precise and like print things and have everything kind of like measured and and laid out. So whatever kind of things you want to use to decorate, if you want to do beads or macrame or whatever you want to put on your board, collect those things. And then you actually want to have a medium for your board. So you can, like in this case, I'm using a cork board. I've seen people do them digitally. And what's great about a digital vision board is that you can have it on your phone. You can like carry it with you and whatnot. And I've seen people get fancy. Like the closest thing I'll ever come to a vision board is, remember those like picture frames, digital picture frames? I used to have one of those that sat on my desk at work, and I would have like different images that would kind of flash through. Some people have done them as screensavers and things like that. So you can use any medium for your vision board, but if you've done that work ahead of time to think through what your actual goals are, whatever's going to motivate you, that's the best medium, I would say. So these are just a list of ideas that you can use. And I believe, Patia, in one of the emails that went out, we listed some vision board kits for you guys. Like I know myself, now that I have a 3-year-old, I actually do have glitter and scissors and glue laying around the house. But a lot of us might not have those things. You don't want to go out and buy it. So they have whole kits already put together. I have my stack of magazines here. And Kalila's right, magazines are expensive. But some ones that I like that I found really good pictures in are Domino, Lifestyle Magazine, Real Simple. And then I don't know if any of you guys watch HGTV and are familiar with Chip and Joanna, but I like Magnolia Journal. They had a lot of good images too. So whatever you like, whatever floats your boat, travel magazines and whatnot, and memorabilia, tickets. The big thing, I went online and found this template and put it into Canva, but I printed out like a little check to myself. So I'll show that when I go through the demo. So those are all the materials you need to gather. And then I think two most important, like the medium is not so important to me, but maybe for you it is. For me, I think setting the goals ahead of time. And then this third part is like blocking off the time to create the vision board. So you want to define a space. Like right now I'm working in my cloffice. So I'm a big fashion girl. Patia and I are both shoe gals. So this is my like cloffice / closet / office and whatnot. This is where I shoot all my YouTube videos. This is where I come and get dressed. I have like my whole jewelry cabinet back here. So like, this is my space. I had to share it a bit in the pandemic, but I mentioned that I have a toddler and I live here with my husband in a small New York City apartment. So this is like my space where I can come and kind of my version of a she shed, basically. So find a space for you. Sometimes it might mean going outside of the house. Like I know I have a friend, one of my best friends from high school, every year at the beginning of the year, she goes on a solo retreat in North Carolina and actually rents a hotel room and like has a whole weekend where she plans out her goals for the year. So sometimes it can mean that. Or sometimes it could just be going to a cafe. Like if you can't go away for the whole weekend, but block off the time and set a space for yourself and then set the mood. So, you might want to have some snacks. Cause I would say block off like, a good chunk of time, like 2 hours minimum, I would say to do this. Or you could also do it in steps. Cause like right now I don't have, maybe if you don't have 2 hours in one day, you can kind of say an hour today to do step 1, an hour tomorrow to do step 2 and whatnot. However you need to do it, just get it done and schedule it. And then set the mood. You might want to light some candles. You might want to drink, but not too much because you want to be, sober and focused. And then just sit down and create your vision board. And so we have a checklist here. So it even says select your outfits, prepare your drinks and snacks, lay out all your materials so you have it all ready. And then importantly, so once you've created the vision board, like it's not magic. The act of creating the vision board and setting the intention is like half the battle. You have to look at it, so you want to put it someplace that's visible where you pass by every day. I know some people might keep it in their bathroom. Kalila mentioned she keeps it on the back of her bedroom door. When I had my digital picture frame, I had it on my desk in my office. I think here I have a little space on my wall in my office where I'm going to put mine. So put it someplace visible and then reflect on it. Set aside some time in your calendar weekly for reflection. It doesn't have to be long. It could just be 10 minutes or something every Sunday before the new work week begins. Do a monthly assessment, yearly review. And we put into this guide and workbook, we put in some sample kind of materials you can use to make sure that you go through and check against yourself, see how your vision is lining up with reality. So, and I see we have a lot of things in everyone. Yes, we're going to share examples. Looking in the chat. Yes, we're going to show some examples of a vision board. Don't worry. All right. And then now I'm not going to spend too much time on each of these, but I'm just going to show you some examples. So like I said, everyone thinks about things differently. So if you've never done a vision board, if you've never strategically, laid out goals, I would say the first step you want to do is just a brain dump, like list out all the things that you want to do, all the things that you want to accomplish. So for me, and that helps you to focus as well. So you'll probably wind up with a laundry list of like things that you want to do in life. So one of my long-term goals is like, I actually want to own a helicopter and be able to fly it myself. That's like one of my bucket list goals, is to be a helicopter pilot and have my own private helicopter. But is that urgent? Do I need to do it this year? No. Is it important? It depends. Not terribly important currently right now. So I would say like, maybe that's something I can kind of put to the wayside. So do a brain dump of everything that you wanted to do, see, think, and be. And then you want to prioritize it into these categories. So I did a little example here. So for example, for me, my big goal this year is that I want to start making money from YouTube. So I've been a blogger, influencer. I've been blogging since 2010, and I really want to step it up in the video realm. So I'm using that example as like my big goal for the year, to kind of share with you guys. So urgent things, and they're important. I signed up for a course last year on how to monetize on YouTube, and I have not done the course yet. I bought it, I paid for it. So that is important. I need to do it now. And then I need to create a 3-month content calendar. Some other things that, are important, but not urgent, like hiring a video editor. I can edit myself now, and I'm very particular. So outsourcing is not my strong suit. So I really want to take my time with that. So I'm not in a rush, but it is important. So I'm going to schedule a time to hire a video editor by this time. And then some other things. So like things that I'm not going to do, buy new camera equipment, because I have plenty of cameras. I have ring lights. I have all this stuff, and I love gadgets and technology, but it's not important and it's not urgent. So I can hold off on those things. Then there's a goals pyramid. So this might be a better way for you to lay out. Like I said, all these tools, you don't have to use all of them, but pick the ones that you think will be useful for you. So example would be, the ultimate goal is to make $1,000 a month from YouTube on a consistent basis by the end of the year. And these are the steps I'm going to use to get into it. And these are my short-term goals. So one of my short-term goals is to actually qualify for YouTube's partner program. And so there's 2 parts. You have to have 1,000 followers, and you have to have 4,000 hours of watch time in the last year. So I'm almost at 2,000 followers. So I'm halfway. So I'm surpassed that part. And then I think I'm at about 3,000 watch hours for the past 12 months. So I need to get to that extra amount. So if you want to follow me on YouTube, it's Closet Confections. And just have it playing in the background as you're going about your day. There's a wheel of life. And that's something too I want to share with you guys. So I started journaling, and Kalila, I'm sorry, I did not know about your journal before I bought this one. But journaling has been another thing that's been in my to-do list every year. And finally, during the pandemic, I started journaling. So I got this one. It's a 5-minute productivity journal. And the only reason I'm showing it now is because they had something in here called the life wheel. That I had actually filled out. So I have, you identify all the areas in your life. Thank you for sharing my YouTube channel. That's where I got the idea for the life wheel. We want to put a life wheel into this journal. Just to kind of do a pulse check. I would say if you fill out your life wheel quarterly, so you identify the areas that are important to you, and you just kind of do a temperature check. Patia and I were talking earlier before this about Gabrielle Union. If any of you guys follow her, apparently she did a post. What did she say recently? What was it? About the myth of balance.
The concept of work-life balance is pretty much a concept that's fake, and we should not be killing ourselves to
Yes.
have it, because something will always suffer. And it's just something that, for whatever reason, only seems to apply to women. Like, men don't sit around talking about work-life balance the way we do,
No,
right? They just do.
that is true.
For sure.
That is very true.
A wife,
Yeah.
I know that there is no balance. Like, if you're working on the business, then you're gonna have to order out because you don't have time to cook for the family, or cooking.
Yeah.
That maybe you don't get to do all of your projects on time. And if you need to take care of your kid, then maybe nothing else happens because that's the priority at the time. And so she was just encouraging us all to get off the life balance wheel that doesn't really exist, and to give ourselves grace and to admit that sometimes, right, we will succeed at various areas in our life at the expense of other areas, and that's okay. So actually, if I can find the link to that video, I'll also share it. Let me go look.
Oh yeah, please do. Please do. So I found my journal from before. So this was my life wheel and how it looked at different points in time. So this was like, now keep in mind, all of these areas are important to me, but my camera's backwards. You can see I was failing in some areas. And then a few months later, I was kind of kicking butt, but that only lasted for a couple of weeks. So, you know, but I think having that visual helps you sometimes, and you can kind of pick and choose where you're going to focus. We've all seen Venn diagrams before. I think this one is helpful if you're someone like me, like I'm not sure what I want to be when I grow up. If you're still a grown up and you're still trying to figure that out, I think this one is helpful because it's, you take what you love doing and you take what you're good at, and then you think about what is there an actual market for? Because sometimes, you know, I love shopping, but, you know, does the world need me to shop? Some of these retailers will say yes. I'm really good at shopping too. So actually that's why I'm an influencer. But yeah, you want to take those things, and what you want to focus your energy on once you've written down all those things is you want to focus your energy in the middle here where there's that overlap between circles. So this little middle dark pink circle, that's the money maker. And then there's just a time exercise. So again, we talked about your vision board being time sensitive. And I think this is a useful one. So just thinking about 1 month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, all the way to 5 years from now, where do you just see yourself? Like you picture yourself. You don't have to go into the details, the nitty gritty, but just in general. So like for me, a month from now, 6 months from now, I plan to still be in these four walls. Right now I'm working from home. My business, I'm a solopreneur and whatnot. And I don't see that, my plan is not for that to change too much in the next year, but two years from now, you know, I would like to have a handful of employees, not too many. I love this apartment, but it's dark. So I like a larger apartment with some sunlight. And then one of my big goals too is I want to buy a log cabin in the Poconos. So that's actually what's driving this YouTube goal. I figured out, I've priced out the land. I priced out the construction and everything and decorating and whatnot. And so the money that I make from YouTube will be used to fund this log cabin in the Poconos dream. And then 5 years from now, I would like to own my own place in the city. Right now we rent. So setting your goals. So here you talk about what's your important goal and why is that goal important? Like for me, for the YouTube goal, it's not that I want to be internet famous. Like that doesn't really do it for me, but there's some other things, like I mentioned this log cabin is driving that. And so things that you need to accomplish, things that you need to stop doing. So for me, procrastination is a big one. And also too, I'm a perfectionist. I know a lot of us can probably relate to this. Like that actually stopped me. I started my YouTube channel in 2011 and I posted 3 videos and I didn't post again until 2018 because I didn't like the quality of the videos and whatnot. But looking back at that time, the videos were good enough. And think if I had just kept posting my crappy videos for that 7 years in between, I could be like Jackie Ina or Patricia Bright, if any of you follow, you know, people on YouTube making millions of bucks. So don't let perfection get in the way of doing things. And I'm saying that as much for you, for myself, as I am for you guys. Next thing, vision map. So there's like different ways you can lay this out. You can think about different categories, your primary goal and whatnot, and kind of map it all out and write it all down. These are some sample categories just to get you guys going. And then your yearly plan as well. So just thinking about just month to month, like where do you see yourself? What do you want to be accomplishing? What do you want to be doing? This, again, you could print out for each month. You could set your monthly to-do list, your monthly goals and whatnot, and maybe your important items that you want to do. I actually bought a paper planner. I live in Outlook and I live and die by my calendar. But I find when I write stuff down, like I picked this up at Marshall's, writing it down for some reason, I just feel like you get that muscle memory. And they've actually, they've done studies like physically writing makes things stick a lot more than like typing into your computer. So every day I sit down in the morning or at night at the end of the day and I write down what I actually need to do for the day. And I have calendar reminders to remind me to do it. So this is a weekly plan as well if you're going to set your goals for the week. So again, like all these things you can print out multiple times or just buy a planner, buy something you can do that with. And then another resource you put in here was the 30-day challenge. So I'm a big believer in setting really big short-term goals. So the whole way I started blogging, I was working full-time and I told myself I'm going to blog 5 times a week for an entire year. And I did it. And when I first started, I was like, man, this is really hard. This is taking me a lot of time. But by the end of the year, within like 6 months, 6 months, it was nothing. I could blog 5 days a week. It came natural to me. Like it was just easy to do because I had done it so many times. So they say it takes about 10,000 hours of work that you need to put in to become an expert at something. So by the end of that year, I don't know if I had put in 10,000 hours, but at this point I definitely have. So you just get better and better. And the same thing with YouTube. Last year, I challenged myself. I was going to post one video per week for an entire year. I came very, very close. Things went a little bit off the rails around Thanksgiving due to some family drama, but due to no fault of my own. But yes, I actually kept recording content. So I have a backlog of content from all the way from Thanksgiving. I just need to edit it. So, but I think a 30-day challenge, they say you can do anything for 30 days and 30 days is the amount of time that it usually takes for something to become a habit. So if you say you want to, like I've done challenges before where I become vegan for 30 days. And at the end of the 30 days, you decide, like you've done it. Did it serve you? What can you tweak and do better? Or is it something you could just say like, yeah, I did that once and that's it. I remember one time Patia and I did a bike-a-thon, a 30-mile bike-a-thon around Manhattan. I think at the time for me, I don't think I had been on a bike for about 3 years prior to the biking 30 miles.
I did about 10 and my dad's on it. And Daddy, you probably remember you said, 30 miles is a lot when you haven't been in the bike in like 10 years. And I was like, no, I can do it. I mean, it was drama, but listen, we completed that 30 miles, right?
We did. There might have been some crashes, but yes, we did.
Yeah, I fell, I was bruised. I mean, it was a hot mess, but we did.
So that's something I did once and I don't plan to do it again. So the 30 days, it could be like that. You can totally commit and then, you just have that badge to say I did it. And that's fine too. You got bragging rights.
Is what you do after the fall. Do you lay there or do you get up?
Exactly. No, you dust yourself off and cry a little bit and then you get back on.
Yes. Get back on that bike and keep riding. That's what I did.
All right. And then we have a template here for your yearly review. So every month, just recap, look and see what did you accomplish, what things you need to keep working on. I'm notorious for this. I will set goals for myself and whatnot. And then if I look back and I'm like, you set a goal to do X, Y, Z, but you didn't make any progress towards it. It could be that I just made excuses, or it could be maybe that thing just isn't important. So you have to be honest with yourself and think like, is this something that I want to bring into the next week and have it bother me and nag me? Am I going to actually do it? Or is it something I just need to let go and maybe pick back up later? So I actually have a section for that. I have like a list of to do when I get a chance. And sometimes it's like mindless things. Like sometimes there's things I need to do, like organize my fingernail polishes. I'll just say that's not an important goal at all, but sometimes you just need to accomplish something to feel like, you know, to feel like you're doing something, but you just need it to be mindless. You know, sometimes you just, for me at least, I need to have those kind of tasks. So, all right. So that is the workbook. And then I'm just going to show some examples of vision boards, and I'm going to show like create one in sort of real time. Let me just see how I'm doing on time. Let's see. All right. So vision board examples. So you could just go to probably Dollar Tree or Michael's or something like that and just buy a big, huge poster board. Go online, print out pictures, take some magazines, like I showed you my magazine stash, and put them together. For me, I like things to be more organized and laid out. So this is an example of a digital vision board. So I'm going to make a sample vision board for you guys, but if I was making one for myself, it probably would look more like this. That's just kind of how my brain works. And then this is another example of a digital one that you could have done. You can even make one like this and have it printed out physically. So you can have the digital copy on your phone, on your computer, and then you can just send it to a printer and have it printed up, you know, made into a nice canvas or something like that for yourself as well. It's another example. Some people just get like, you know, a picture frame. You could have it just sitting here on your desk so that you can look at it. And then, so those are just some like examples of vision boards and how they look. The vision board kits, I think we dropped a link into the chat, gives you all that you need. So now I'm just going to show you guys what I'm using for my vision board. So I had my magazine earlier, and you can see I started cutting out parts of it. So I got my magazine, and then I have my YouTube check that I printed out. And this doesn't have to be, this is the way I like to do it. So I take all of my different pieces, and I'll show you what I got on my vision board. So I got my YouTube check.
You want to take the share so they can see it?
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to show you guys. So this is how I like to do it. I like to take all of my different pieces and lay them out kind of how I want them. And then I have different fasteners. I have my glue, my tape, and my push pins, and I lay them all out. So you see here, I'll just walk you through everything. My YouTube check, that's going to be a big one for me. Over in this corner, you see the big salad. And that is because I don't want to become vegetarian, but I do want to eat more vegetables. And specifically, I want to cook more at home. So that's a reminder to myself. I had set a goal for myself to drink. I was trying to see if I had it. Drink a gallon of water a day. And that's kind of hard. So having that reminder, I bought a big 1 gallon water jug. So reminding myself to hydrate. And then speaking of balance, one of the areas that fell off for me in the new year, last year, was self-care. So like painting my nails. I actually did my nails last week. So I think that was my first manicure in months. To do my morning skincare routine and my nighttime skincare routine. I usually do one or the other. So just to remind myself to take care of myself. And then here, I've been meaning to replace all of the light fixtures in my house forever. I've been meaning to do that. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term boob lights, but basically all of those lights that come standard in New York City apartments, and they look like a boob. We have those in every room of our house. And so I want to replace all of them. And then I have a picture. I couldn't print it out. My printer stopped working. So I couldn't find print a picture of the actual log cabin, but this little fire pit and the lake, that's kind of what I envision the vibe being. Oh, someone has that lights in their kitchen. See? That's kind of the vibe that represents the log cabin that I want to have. And then during this pandemic, my husband and I beforehand, we used to be avid travelers. We would go on like 2 international trips a year. We have not. Our last international trip was to Ireland in 2019. And I told him, I was like, you know, barring anything crazy happening, I need to get away on a real vacation. No more road trips. I don't want to drive to Detroit and visit my family. I love my family, but I don't. That's not a vacation. I want to go somewhere and sit on someone's beach and have someone bring me a cocktail. So that's what this picture is here. And then this bottle of champagne is because I like to go to a vineyard. Every year we go to a vineyard for my birthday, and I always buy a bottle of champagne, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to save it for a celebration. But then the celebration never happens. So now I have like a wine fridge. So this is just to remind myself to pop open a bottle of champagne when the mood strikes. And yes, I did make that check up for YouTube. I just found a check template online and brought it into Canva and put in the type myself. So yeah. And then how to write a letter. I want to start writing more handwritten letters. And then my other word for the year is just simplify, because I can be extra and like overcomplicate things. So just a reminder to simplify. And then the last thing is books. Last year I did set my goal. I wanted to read a book every month, and I did, but I did it with audiobooks. Because I mentioned I have a 3-year-old, I want them to see. Oh, someone has their audio. You can mute yourself.
The light fall any close?
Yes, please. I wanted to start reading more physical books so that my son could see us actually reading books and like not just be so technology focused. So that's a reminder to like pick up an actual book, sit down with a cup of coffee or tea, and do that. So that's kind of how I create a vision board. And Nicole, I know you want to share your vision board as well.
Yes, I'll show. A couple of people were asking me about digital boards. So as I mentioned, I'm an avid vision board maker. So let me go ahead and just pull up. I have my screen up. Bear with me. Okay, and I'm just going to show you a couple of you can see my screen? Are you screen? Okay. So of course you'll see my boards evolved over the years. So this is, I think this is one is from 2014. Let me see. Is it moving? Okay, I've gone a little further. That's 2018, 2015, right? So 2015. So of course, words, pictures. But as you go forward, you'll notice I stopped putting pictures of other people's faces on my board and start making it more intentional. And I've now started making my boards. I'm in the center of my board. But the thing is, your board doesn't have to make sense to everyone. It just has to make sense to you. And it's your story. You know what it is. So I set my goals like Kendra notes. Write out my goals. I know what it means. I have my overarching goal, life goal. Someone's mic is open. And then what I do is I go ahead and I write out what my goals are that I'm attaining for the year. That's going to feed into my overall article. So all my goals are they all lead up to my big picture goal. So I do I do my boards digitally, and I do them digitally, and then I print them out into Canvas. And I print them out in the Canvas, and of course my bedroom, so I can see it when I go to sleep. I see it when I wake up. And then I also save a copy, because if they're digital, I can save it on my phone. I can save it on my desktop. I can, so it's always around me. I'm able to see. And at the end of the year, I can see, okay, what did I do? If I never accomplish something, I move it to the next board, move it on, because I need to make sure I'm accomplishing them before I'm removing them. And I just wanted to share my little ones. I'm going to stop sharing. So my 8-year-old, who's now 9, just made her first vision board. So she made her vision board for the year. And, super proud of her. So I just wanted to kind of share my little one's vision board. And everything on her board has a meaning to her. And she found the images and the words that kind of coincide and that work together to go with her goals. So those are some examples of board. But I love digital boards because I get a chance to get a little bit more creative. I get to kind of put it together in a way that for me appeals to me, and then I can print it out. And I love seeing my vision board on my wall once they're finished. And I force all my clients to make boards. So
oh, good. That's a good idea. Someone had asked about tools that you can use to create a digital vision board. And so Canva has a lot
that's where I make mine.
templates. Yeah. So if you just go to Canva, type in vision board, all these different templates will pop up. And you can see here. And like Nicole had a great idea having it printed out on canvas so it looks nice. And so here's one example. Here's another example. So I love Canva, and I have the whole Adobe suite that I pay for every month. And honestly, I rarely touch it. It's terrible. So yeah, you can easily just size it to whatever size you need. So if you want to have it printed out on like a 16 by 20 poster board, you can do that and have it printed out. I think even Canva now it lets you print right within Canva. You can have it sent to a printer, and they will physically. Yeah, they'll physically mail it to you. So yeah, lots of great resources for that. So let me look into the chat. Let's see if anyone has any questions. I don't think so. So yeah, I mean, are you using all magazine pics? You can use whatever pics that you want to. So Nicole had a great, you said you like to use. Mm-hmm.
From Canva, well, there's some photos that of course I upload in the Canva because I want those specific to me, like my pictures of my family and me. And I make sure the photos that I'm putting on the board that are pictures of my family are actually reflective of what I want. I'm not just posting a photo up there for no reason. And then on top of that, when I'm finding photos, so if I'm putting a photo of a house, because of course that's on my list of things to get done between now and the end of the year, I want to make sure I'm finding a photo that is reflective of the actual house that I want. So I want to be very intentional because you manifest what it is that you set your sight on. It's kind of like you buy a red car, you see, or you say you want a red car, and over time, all you see is just red cars, because now you're focused on it and you're now mindful of seeing it. So you start manifesting those things, just like negative things. It's the same thing that happens. So you got to be more intentional, just like even when you pray, you got to be very specific about what you ask for. So I'm very specific about the images I choose. So I have to set on the goals, be very intentional and specific about getting the images and the words that actually align with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like when I'm going to do my actual vision board, like one of my goals for the year is to fit back into my pre-pregnancy wardrobe. And there's one specific dress. So I was going to print out a picture of me the last time I was able to comfortably fit into that dress. And that's going to go on my vision board. So yeah, you don't have to just use magazine pictures. So whatever's going to motivate you. And some people, like I've seen vision boards where there's a lot of text because that's what motivates certain people, seeing those words and whatnot. So yeah.
All right, people. So I hope that you guys got a lot of good ideas from the examples that were shown tonight. I know it's a lot to digest and you just have to kind of jump in and start doing it, right? And as you do it, it'll become more fun and more clear.
All right, so just before we roll out, we are just about there. Anyone want to raise their hand and quickly share, whether you take away from tonight or share what you'll do different, what your goals are for this year?
We have 2 minutes left. Stephanie has her hand raised. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'm still clarifying my goals, but I just want to say how refreshingly accessible and simple all of the different tools and kits and thinking processes you guys shared. So it just I have no excuses now. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Anybody else?
Anyone else?
I'll go. Kimberly Hardin here. I'll just say, just in terms of having the expiration dates or having the goal dates for the vision boards is something that I'll be more mindful of.
Marcus, you have your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead and say something before we say goodnight?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, well, thank you all for this whole workshop. It was very insightful. one thing I want to get done before the year is over is I'm transitioning into project management, and I would love to see a good in-depth session on just planning.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good feedback.
Awesome. Noted.
We'll do that.
Everyone just do know, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, your preferred platform. Share your takeaways. If your vision board is complete, you can either share if you feel free sharing it on social, or you can ping us and share it with us so that we can see what you came up with. And be sure to mark your calendar for the next event. We'll be sending out emails in our emails, and bring someone to the next one.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you, everybody, for attending. We hope you had a great time. Look out for follow-up emails, and hopefully you can join us at the next Mosaic Mommies event. And for the men who keep showing up, yes, I know it's Mosaic Mommies, but you know.
We'll take you, right?
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and hopefully we'll see you next time. All right. Goodbye now.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.